Hey everybody, it's your weekday sanity break from 10% Happier. Really appreciate you joining us. For if you're new to this, the way it works is we do a couple minutes of chit chat off the top with our meditation teacher, and then we do 5 minutes of meditation, and then we take your questions and we run them by our teacher of the day. We've been able to line up some of the greatest teachers in the world, and the point is really twofold at least to do this. One is to, as I said before, to give you a sanity break. This is a moment where we all need some calm and some mindfulness. Another word for mindfulness might be self-awareness, that self-awareness can help us be less yanked around by all the anxiety we're justifiably feeling. Another thing is that in this era of, what they call it social distancing, I would prefer if they called it physical distancing. In this era where many of us are feeling isolated, it's really important to have a sense of community, and we're hoping that this daily, or at least week daily session will provide that for a lot of you. So let me introduce our teacher today. He is Koshin Paley Ellison, and he's not only a fantastic meditation teacher, but he's also a close friend. So Koshin, thanks for coming on.
It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, it's a joy to be here.
I know you well, but for those who don't, can you just give us a few words on your background?
Yeah, I'm a writer and a Zen monk and a Zen teacher and a psychotherapist and someone who just really loves the world.
Yeah, you've got a pretty extensive resume, and you and your husband Chodo, who my wife and I were privileged enough to be at your wedding a few years ago, and we also took a course you offer every year where you help train people to be hospice volunteers, and that has had a massive impact on my life doing that work. So really appreciate you being here. And before we dive in on the meditation, do you have a sense of sort of what you want to talk about today, what you want to leave us with?
I don't know what I want to leave you with, but I'm just really interested in tenderness and intimacy and how we can really understand how we matter. And just by that we are here and how we think and what we say to ourselves and what we do really just matters.
Even if we're isolated, it matters. So let me stop talking and let you take over, and let's do a little meditation. We'll do some chit chat at the back end.
Sounds good. Okay. So let's just take a moment to find our bodies. I found that during this time, it's really good to remember that we have a body and that it happens to be right here and very accessible, especially when we remember. And so just taking a moment maybe to open your shoulders and just see what that feels like. Often we carry so much tension in our neck and our shoulders, and just giving them a nice roll can be quite pleasurable. And finding that strength in our spine, and each of us have different kinds of bodies. And so finding that place in your body where your spine can be upright. And so finding what upright means in your body. And for some of us, that might be lying down, or some of us that's sitting upright. But being upright in our body and our mind is a wonderful guideline, at least for me. And taking a moment to feel your breath in your belly. So maybe even putting a hand or both hands about 2 inches below your belly button, which in Zen we call your hara. And just feel the breath entering and leaving your body, which just means feeling your hand and your body moving together as you breathe. And just taking the time to just bring your attention, instead of what you're thinking, but just coming down into the softness of your belly. So this instruction of open shoulders, upright spine, and soft belly. And just noticing what that feels like. And as we're sitting, bring to mind someone that you wish that you could see right now, because many of us can't see who we most want to see. And extend this moment of softness and openness and uprightness to that person as a way of kind of embracing them. Allowing them to be with you in this way. The meditative hug. Holding them in your softness. And as you're ready to just begin to bring your awareness back to where you are in your room. Looking around, seeing where you are, appreciating the person that you want to see and have that connection to. And being grateful for them. And that we can bring our practice both to ourself, to our softness, and widen out to include those we love and care for. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Koshin. Andrew Mitchell writes in asking for school teachers, how do we handle the stress not knowing when we'll see our students again? More generally, how do we handle not knowing when a stressful situation will end?
Yeah, we don't know when it's going to end for sure. And to me, one of the joys and the struggle, I've been thinking about this expression a lot lately. Confucius, who was this guy who founded the tradition of Confucianism, was standing by a river, and he was just watching the water flow by, and he thought about, wow, it's when he realized that everything is constantly changing. And this is about 2,600 years ago. And so he realized, wow, everything is changing and I can't stop it. And when that teaching moved to Japan, they use this expression called to hear the cries of the river. So when you're talking about not knowing when things are going to end, it's like, yes, we have to hear the cry of things changing. And the cry is both what is sorrowful, like not knowing when you'll see your students again, and the joy and the wish that they're okay. So to me, it's about how do we hold both, and the willingness just to hear all the cries of joy and the cries of sorrow. Yeah.
Maurice Nazaro writes, how do people who are afraid of death deal?
I don't know how people do it, but I know for myself, when I was so afraid of death as a primary fear that everything was really hard. And for me, there's something about being just really curious about that. And how do I get curious about what I'm afraid of and get curious about what is it actually about death that I worry about? And so in the conversations I've had and the privilege of having with many people who are in the dying process is that many people really just miss and want to make sure that they loved well. And this is what many people who spend time with the dying know. And so to me, maybe what the lesson could be if you're afraid of death is make sure that you love well so that you don't have as many regrets. Yeah.
Carol Barazzi asks, hi, can you talk about the guilt some of us retired healthcare workers feel for not helping out?
Yeah, this is something that I've been hearing a lot about, is the guilt and the feeling of people not doing enough, including healthcare workers who don't feel like they're doing enough. And to me, how do we learn how to appreciate what we're doing is what we can do. And I know people who are retired healthcare workers who have decided to write letters of thank you to all the people they know who are clinicians who are still working, and just reaching out to them and supporting them, knowing that they're not able to go. And so working with your guilt, maybe to just consider how do you offer gratitude instead of, so kind of turning the guilt into a way of a gratitude practice for those who can help in the way that maybe you wished that you could.
Yeah. I know we're talking about serious stuff, but I love occasionally seeing the shadow of your husband pass over you. Hi, Chodo. Here's a question from Salbug, BEL. What meditation tools will help me deal with the prolonged physical distance I have from my family?
This is one of the things that has been coming up for many people. And we were talking about this before we were live, but about how many conversations I've been having about people really having open conversations with the people that they love that they may or may not see again. And the reality of that is really hitting people. And so to me, about how can you use this time where we're home and contained and need to just be in the relationship the best way that we can, and how do we take maybe a little risk in our relationship so that we can extend out the love that we feel. What was that?
What was that? It reminded me of something you said at the beginning that I let pass, which was you were giving your biographical information, therapist, teacher, writer, et cetera, and then you said, and somebody who's in love with the world, I believe. And I had the thought, but I didn't follow up on it, of what does that mean?
Well, for me, I do love the world. It just makes me think of, recently Choda took me to the planetarium, and right before this all happened, and there was this amazing space show, and they were showing like why there basically isn't life as we know it on other planets in our near group, like in Saturn and Venus. And it really showed that because the Earth has this hot core, it actually creates this magnetic field around the Earth that protects it from the solar winds. And that's why we're alive. And so to me, it was so amazing to realize that hot core is actually, like, who thinks about that? and we totally depend on it. And like we wouldn't be here without it. And as it gradually cools, and so to me, like to love the world is just to love like the miracle of that. Like who can understand that? I don't understand it really. I can think about it. But to me, to love the world, to realize like, wow, it is so amazing that we're all here and we have this rare opportunity. It consistently amazes me. Yeah. Even the struggle and the heartache and the suffering. I mean, it's just amazing. We have the opportunity to feel all of it.
It's not uncommon for me to think about how much perspective is useful. Just, thinking about the molten core of the Earth or where we are in the solar system, never mind the galaxy, never mind the universe. One time I was moderating a public discussion with a bunch of astronomers. I think that's what they're called. I can't remember what. They're people who study space. I don't know if they were astronomers per se, but they were experts in space. And I remember asking them, given that your gaze is skyward so frequently and you're thinking about how small we are and how you've got your mainlining awe on the regular, does that allow you to not be so caught up in daily nonsense? And all three of them said no. Anyway, no need to linger on that in mind. Yeah, so it goes. Ken Marks asks, many people are talking about silver linings or benefits to the world from this crisis. Do you have thoughts along these lines?
I don't know about global silver linings. I just know in my immediate environment, like you're about to experience too, is like our cats are over the moon.
Yeah.
Like the silver lining of Corona is our cats are so happy that we're home all the time.
Yes.
And I feel like
Steve agrees. He's
look at Stevie. I mean, it's so interesting to think about that. The silver lining is also in the midst of this unknown, disorienting chaos that we're in, that where so many people will suffer, and particularly economically, that part of it is wrenching to me. And at the same time, I can go outside my door for our daily walk around the block and see crocus. Amazing. The cherry tree. I mean, it's in the midst of all of it. So like the silver lining to me is like, how do you hold the beauty and the terror together? How do I hold the extraordinary beauty with the horror and the suffering? That they both are always existing at the same time. It's like in the Buddhist teachings, there's
the shadow of Chodo.
The shadow's coming. Here, he's going to say hi. Chodo. But I think it really is to hold the beauty and the sorrow. Say hi, Chodo. Say hi, Chodo.
I can't hear you. Hi, buddy. Good to see you. Just so you know, so the audience knows, even Zen monks can be goofy. It's a good lesson.
It's so important. So important.
And it goes right to your point about holding both of these things at the same time. This is a massively difficult situation. There's no question about it. And yet it is okay, in fact, advisable to take pleasure in things that are large or small. Because that's how we have our own strength to be of maximal use to everybody.
And in loving relationships, like to really nourish our loving relationships, right?
Okay, let me say a few things before we wrap up here. First of all, I want to let everybody know that if you want to hook us up, you can tell everybody about this thing we're doing weekdays, 3 Eastern, noon Pacific, although you can watch it on, most people do watch it afterwards. We have a whole page of content for people, all free. So we're calling it our Corona Sanity Guide. If you go to 10%.com, we've got all these meditations and talks there for you to help you get through this time. And one final thing you can do to help us out is we've got a survey up. We're really trying to make sure, and I say this every day, but it's actually really useful when you go in there and take 30 seconds to 120 seconds to tell us how we're doing. That helps us get better every day. Tomorrow, our teacher is Anushka Fernandopoulos. Koshin, thank you very much. You were great. Chodo, love you too.
He loves you too.
All right, everybody. Stay healthy, stay home, and we'll see you tomorrow.